as always. Great to see you. It's a big, incredible news night. Not all of it great. If you value human life, children, babies, inalienable rights, basic human decency, I want you to listen up, because tonight's watch on the radical left is more important than anything we've talked about lately. Because we now have people in this country, Democrats, people on the left, you know, those people that claim to have a monopoly of compassion. They label conservatives, as racist, sexist, heartless, misogynist, hateful. They want dirty air and water, and they want to throw Granny over the cliff. We hear that every 2-4 years. Well, as we speak, we have in this country multiple states, legislators, governors, that are pushing to make abortion. This is not about abortion. In the 7th, 8th, even the 9th month, up until the moment of birth, pregnancy, legal. They're trying to legalize, in other words, infanticide or the destruction of viable human life. They want to make it perfectly okay, seemingly, to, in fact, terminate a baby that could easily survive outside of the womb. Now, Virginia state delegate named Kathy Tran actually introduced a bill that would allow an abortion during birth, dilation, even when the mother's life is not at risk. Watch her body language. Watch this exchange very closely.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
She has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Even she doesn't feel comfortable with this. Now, we don't cover the topic of abortion. Honestly, most people pretty much have made up their minds. We know Roe v. Wade is law. There's a misconception whenever we have a Supreme Court appointment that, Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned and abortion outlawed, and it's going to be back alley abortions. No, if the law was ever overturned, it would go back to the states, and we know how liberal these states are. And it's a divisive topic. But I will say this. On the issue of abortion, people that I know that are friends of mine, you can have an honest disagreement about when life begins. It's not that simple for some people. But that's not what this is about. This has nothing to do really with abortion. This is about an unconscionable, grotesque brutality. This is a piece of legislation that legalizes infanticide. It gets worse than what you just heard. Now, keep in mind, this bill applies to all situations. She was describing when the birth began that she would support an abortion if the mother so decided. Now, we're not talking about if the mother's life is at risk or whether or not a perfectly healthy child is formed inside the womb. Listen to Virginia's Democratic governor, Ralph Northam, perfectly supportive of what she said and worse on this radical plan. Listen to this.
Third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered, the infant would be kept comfortable, the infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
We're going to go over this slowly. This is barbaric, horrible. Again, it's about a brutality. This is what he said. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable, meaning a human being is alive, would be kept comfortable. Then the infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother chooses to do, if the baby stops breathing because they're keeping the baby comfortable and the family desired. And while this child is living outside the womb alone, they'll have a discussion. A discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. Oh, what should we do? What do you think we should do? Really? You don't think that's cold, callous, barbaric? It's not, again, about, people can have a difference of opinion. I believe life begins at conception. Some people say if it's not viable first trimester, they support they're pro-abortion or pro-choice, as they call themselves. Governor Northam once worked as a pediatric neurologist, and now he's willing to support a bill that terminates what is a viable living child in front of him and have a discussion. This is a radical, new, extreme, as I've been saying, Democratic Socialist Party. At that point, think about infants. Think about how you feel about a little puppy being born. Well, think about a little child. Does that not represent everything that we think of as the ultimate in innocence? If we as a country, we can't come together, forget Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, blue, red, and agree to protect a child that is laying there comfortably and having a discussion to do everything we can to keep that child alive, what kind of country do we want to be here? A baby defines innocence. What he described and she described is a brutality. And earlier today, we sent our own Sarah Carter to Alexandria to see what Virginians thought about their governor and this horrible legislation. Take a look.
Women, I think, we all feel like we should be responsible for our bodies. But my feeling, late trimester abortion is very scary. It sounds awful. I think abortions should be rare. But I think a woman has to make up their mind and her doctor.
Kill a baby at full term?
Yes.
I don't think that's too much.
Yeah.
For me personally, it doesn't bother me. That doesn't mean I would advocate for it. I just think it's something that the people involved have to deal with themselves, and it's their decision to make.
Does it just disturb you, the fact that the discussion over a baby's life, even after birth, what the governor suggested, whether or not they decide to resuscitate, would be left up to the mother, even after the child's delivered?
Just because you haven't taken a breath in this earth doesn't make you less a baby or more baby.
Do you feel like children are voiceless now? Babies?
Well, I think they decide who's a child and who's not. Right? They're putting God in their hands instead of God's hands.
Now, thankfully, this bill was defeated late this afternoon in the Virginia General Assembly. It was killed in committee on a party line vote. All Democrats voting in favor, and of course the governor supported it as well, as we showed you. Now, as we move forward, other similar bills, why is this the big agenda of the Democrats? Rhode Island, New Mexico, Massachusetts. When they passed a similar law in New York, the governor recently celebrated the passage of a comparable bill that makes late-term abortion, even into the 9th month, legal. He shrugged off any criticism. He's not here to legislate religion. Well, apparently he's only in the State House to legalize the termination of what is now a viable human life in the 9th month. Now, they are purposely vague in their legislation. They won't give you a definition of health. So if someone says hours before, oh, I'm having emotional second thoughts, and a doctor says, okay, then they're allowed to commit infanticide? Now, as it turns out, this party, these people that brag so often and lecture us so often about compassion, don't seem compassionate at all. And that includes, by the way, presidential hopeful Kamala Harris. And she's standing by her radical plan to eliminate the insurance industry. And she's flipping and flopping and flailing all over the place. But it would kick 177 million Americans off their own private health care plans. And Medicare for All would provide one big government-mandated health care system. No options. And according to a study from George Mason University, the plan, well, that's going to cost the taxpayers $3.2 trillion a year, $32 trillion plus over 10 years. How are you going to pay for that? That's about all the money we take in as a country. Spoiler alert, Kamala's coming for your crumbs. Now, we sent our own Lawrence Jones to Senator Harris's home state to see what they thought about her radical big government agenda and ripping away the free market health care system in America. Take a look.
What about education? She believed that free college, free pre-K, is that reasonable?
No, really. Who wouldn't want that, okay? I just want to know where the money's coming from.
How you going to offer free health care? Who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
That's the number one question is who's going to pay for it?
Oh, now if only we could just take everyone else's money and have the government spread it around. That's what it seems like every Democrat now is advocating for. Radical, extreme, socialist Democratic Party. It's never been like this. It's so obvious. Kamala Harris is trying to win over the radical elements in her own party, all while attempting to paint herself as a compassionate champion for the people, and she's not the only one. Don't forget, Elizabeth Warren. She's so compassionate that after you paid your state taxes, your federal taxes, your property taxes, your sales taxes, and maybe you saved a little, she wants a new plan that would allow the government to go back again and steal money legally from whatever you have left, a brand new wealth tax, she calls it. By the way, and then when you die, they take 40% more. And in New York, another 10%. That's 50 cents of every dollar you save throughout your life. Now, at least one lifelong Democrat is speaking out against his party's radical shift. Now, former Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz slammed Elizabeth Warren and the other hard-left extremists in her party for their attacks on what he calls the American dream. Maybe there's hope for this extreme radical party. Take a look.
Elizabeth Warren's proposal is a wealth tax.
Oh, God. It's an idea that has no merit. She knows that there's no way this could come to pass. These are just false campaign promises to make noise. I don't believe what Elizabeth Warren stands for. I don't believe the country should be heading to socialism. Elizabeth Warren doesn't know me. I mean, I started from nothing. I'm self-made. Isn't that the promise of America, that regardless of your station in life or where you come from, that you can be successful in this country? I also think it's ludicrous. Elizabeth Warren, a number of years ago, knocked on my door and asked me for money when she was running for the Senate. So it's somewhat duplicitous, isn't it?
Now, what Howard Schultz is talking about, the hard left shift in the Democratic Party, has been happening now for a long time. They want government to control your bank accounts, your businesses, your health care, your education. They want open borders. And by the way, the lifeblood of our economy, they want to end all fossil fuel energy. In 12 years, or the world ends, according to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. And at the same time, the left is applauding infanticide and celebrating, abortion, if you even want to call it that, infanticide, even up to the moment of birth. Now, imagine that they care about child-parent separation, only when they can bludgeon President Trump, who solved the problem that existed in the Obama years. But then again, Nancy Pelosi won't meet with angel moms and dads, that permanent separation, because an illegal immigrant killed their kid. Now, today, House Democrat Henry Cuellar told The Hill that his party is entering new rounds of negotiations in total opposition to funding any new border barriers, saying, quote, "The bottom line is my position is no." Okay, they're unwilling to negotiate. I thought they cared about Dreamers and DACA. Well, clearly the party of compassion doesn't care about those kids or the safety and security of our nation. They're obviously standing for nothing except hating Trump. Well, let not your heart be troubled. As I told you, I don't think this president's caving in. Remember, he tweeted this: if the committee of Republicans and Democrats now meeting on border security is not discussing or contemplating a wall or physical barrier, they are wasting their time. Now, the president holds all the cards. He gets no deal. February 15th, I'll give you odds. I'm 99% certain that he will lawfully declare a national emergency or just send down the military and start building the wall with defense funds. Now, many of you in 2016 doubted that Donald Trump would govern as a conservative. I've known him well over 2 decades, and I put it on the line, and I said he absolutely will. And he has, hasn't he? He's going to find a way, he's tenacious, to get the money and build the wall. In the big picture, I don't care how he does it. I don't care where the money comes from. It's still our money, and it's an emergency. We see the growing seriousness of this every day. We have 3 caravans now heading this way, 12,000 people. You know, we had an MS-13 gang member this week apprehended, Rio Grande Valley, in a sector where there's no wall. And just look at this video released by the Border Patrol in Yuma, Arizona. Look at this. A 3-year-old is being thrown across an outdated, rundown barrier by human smugglers, no doubt encouraged to make the journey because our borders are notoriously porous. And it gets even more disturbing. Wall Street Journal reporting smugglers, they're now taking illegal border crossers on a dangerous journey through a wall-free remote section of the New Mexico desert where they risk dehydration, malnourishment, and even death. It couldn't be more obvious. Our borders are a huge crisis that has to be addressed. That's why former DHS Special Agent Timothy Ballard, sounding the alarm, FoxNews.com. He writes, as a former DHS Special Agent on the southern border who fought sex trafficking for over a decade, I can say with certainty that the issue of the border wall should not be about power and partisan politics. Human trafficking, abusing children, this is what reckless open border policies encourage. It's why the president's fighting so hard. What are Chuck and Nancy fighting for? Anything? No, except hating Trump, who's offering the things they say they wanted. The president knows what's at stake, and it's why he's been willing to change strategies to get the job done. Now, tonight, if the left refuses to even acknowledge the serious life and death, safety, security issues at our southern border, the president will use his powers as the commander-in-chief, and I'm giving you 99 to 1% odds he will do it himself. All right, now, before we get to our guests, we have one important update to bring you from our Hannity Watch on the deep state. Remember Nellie Orr? She worked for Fusion GPS with Christopher Steele on Hillary's bought and paid for dirty Russian dossier. Also married to Bruce Orr, high-ranking DOJ official who proliferated the dirty dossier throughout the FBI and the DOJ. Well, today we learned that Nellie Orr's primary role at Fusion GPS was to dig up dirt on all of Donald Trump's children for the Clinton campaign. And she even performed research against Melania Trump. Another pretty disgusting example how the far left, deep state, abusing power bureaucrats, literally how far they were willing to go to destroy Donald Trump, to prevent him from becoming president and destroying his presidency from day one. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, along with, well, relatable podcast host Allie Beth Stuckey and Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. Let me go over these words with our top story tonight.
Yeah.
This is the governor on the radio show. Well, he says, if a mother's in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered, okay? The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if, now this is outside the womb, if that's what the mother and family desired. Then a discussion would ensue between the physician and the mother.
Sean, you know my background. I was the president of the National Organization for Women. My activism began on abortion rights in the 1980s. It is something that, and I think this issue, as you said in your opening monologue, is not about even being pro-choice, and it's not even about abortion, is it? As a matter of fact...
Are you still pro-choice, by the way?
Well, you know, I identify as that, indeed, and I can tell you that the...
First 3 months.
Exactly. 61% of Americans who identify as pro-choice agree that it should be restricted to the first 3 months. 92% of GOPers agree with that. 60% of Democrats agree. 6 out of 10 Democrats agree with just the first 3 months, and 78% of independents. We are not a polarized electorate. We are not a polarized nation in this regard. But for me, what is horrific, it is certainly brutal and ghoulish, is that these kinds of laws posit this notion that women who are about to give birth are willing to kill their children. And this is what we've got to stand up against. Only 13% of Americans want third trimester abortions. 18% of Democrats are for it. No one wants this. It is not what Americans who want
Tammy,
freedom
I disagree.
want.
No, this is being fought for hard and being passed as law in some by people that claim the monopoly on compassion.
Right. This is
your former friends.
Certain Democrat leadership, but what we know now is they are not just out of touch with the American people. They are the antithesis. They are fighting for the antithesis of what we represent as individuals, whether you be pro-choice or pro-life. And you know what? This is a good opportunity for people to begin to have this conversation. It's a good opportunity for Republicans and other pro-choicers and pro-lifers who want to come together and recognize that, wait a minute, we have common ground on most of this. We can talk and have conversations about when life begins. But if you are as appalled at this as I am, maybe that conversation in the 21st century now that we know what the dynamic is, perhaps we can begin to have that conversation. I'm willing to have it because this has been a horrific realization of where the Democratic Party has gone and where people who would claim to be the recipients of the work that someone like I've done for 20 to 30 years.
For this cause, to a point.
Well, this is not my cause, and it has not been the cause of people from in the 80s and 90s who are fighting for the opportunity for women to control that framework when you find out you're pregnant. And I want women to have the option to say yes when they're pregnant, to have a good job, to have enough money, whether they're married or not. This is what we've been fighting for.
Let me get, you went out on the streets of Alexandria, Sarah. What was the reaction of most people?
Well, I think what happened was the fact that this video actually went public, it really shocked the conscience of a lot of people that I spoke to. They were willing to talk about it. I thought it was going to be difficult, but people wanted their voices to be heard. They were disgusted by it. They were shocked by it. Even those that were pro-choice, just like, you know, Tammy explained. I think that having the video out there was a real game changer. A lot of these policies and legislation, it gets talked about, but it doesn't make the public you know, media. It's not out there, so people really don't have any idea of what's actually going on inside the law, Sean. And what I heard was people that were shocked, people that were concerned, people that wanted more information, and thankfully the law did not pass. But what we see with Governor Cuomo and his statements, you know, this is not about religion. This is about the sanctity of life, about human life, about a child sitting there after it's been born, and you can't debate that life once it's there. I mean, this is a person, a full person. I don't know how we got to a point where we no longer value the sanctity of life, and we no longer support or protect those that can't protect themselves. It's just very shocking. It was very upsetting. A lot of people were really, some people were just so upset about it, they didn't even know how to talk about it.
Can I just add one tiny thing, Sarah? I don't think we are at that point. We cannot, at this point at all, agree and allow these individuals who are completely out of touch to define what it is where we're at and what we're settling in.
Let me get Allie Beth. Allie Beth.
Right. Well, there is no coincidence that the expansion of government and the popularization of socialism is happening at the same time that we're denigrating life inside the womb. The sanctity of life is central to a free republic, because without life, liberty nor the pursuit of happiness can exist. And so this world that we're living in, where we are denigrating the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the most helpless among us, it is no coincidence whatsoever that socialism is becoming more popular, becoming more mainstream. That's what happens when you grow the power of the government unfettered. Human life, unfortunately, is the cost that we often pay.
You three, this is not about abortion. This is that the baby will be born comfortable and we'll have a discussion. The United States of America. We're better than that. Thank you so much for being with us, all of you. When we come back, straight ahead, Senator Lindsey Graham in studio demanding answers in a shocking story about the FBI, the raid on Roger Stone. Also later, Lawrence Jones, he went to California asking people what they think of Kamala Harris's radical policies. And tonight's villain of the day, well, let's just say a famous Hollywood celebrity. Coming up straight ahead. I have big news tonight out of Capitol Hill. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham of South Carolina is demanding answers from the FBI on the now, third infamous raid. This case, Roger Stone's home in Tampa, Florida. Why did the FBI send, 27 agents armed with rifles, body armor to arrest Stone for lying to Congress? He's not El Chapo. The senator also wants to know if CNN fake news was tipped off by the Mueller team to get their exclusive footage, of course, of this raid. Oh, they picked the perfect day. Joining us now with reaction to all this breaking news tonight, Senator Lindsey Graham. Wait, you're in New York. Good to see you. What are you doing?
Thank you very much.
I don't think that was about abortion in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Right.
You once sponsored a bill that I agreed with.
Well, I have it right now. How many nations in the world allow abortion on demand after 20 weeks, which is the 5th month? 7. 7 nations in the entire world allow abortion on demand after 20 weeks. They're talking about abortion during the actual birthing. So my bill says, unless there's a life of the mothers at stake, result of rape or incest, you can't have abortion on demand in the 5th month. I think most
So
Americans.
you'd have 4 months to decide.
Most Americans will be fine with that.
Let me go to this letter to Director Wray.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I kind of expect and have expected more out of Director Wray, because under James Comey, we now have 2 criminal investigations ongoing, the General Counsel and his Deputy Director. I think there should be far more. We hopefully will get to that. You have said you will get into this. Talk about what should he do? Why are we doing this to people for process crimes? And why does it never happen to all the other liberals like Clapper, Brennan, Mills, Abedin, all these other people that have lied to Congress? Why don't they get the pre-dawn raid?
So let me tell you my job. My job is to provide oversight to the Department of Justice as the Judiciary Chairman. Love the FBI, respect them.
So do I.
But somebody needs to watch those who watch us. I'm going to tell you all I can about the FISA warrant and how you used an unverified dossier paid for by a political party without any verification, how that was
Russian
used.
lies.
Yeah. So
how ironic.
But I want to know why to execute a search warrant with somebody who had a lawyer. The best way to get Roger Stone is to tell him CNN wants to talk to you. He'll show up wherever you want him to show up.
Right.
So the bottom line is, this seems to me over the top, and I don't know what the message was being sent, but I personally didn't like it. You know, I've been a prosecutor, defense attorney. It seemed to be sending the wrong message, that if you cross Mueller, look what's going to happen to you. Mueller, do your job, but these tactics are unacceptable given the level of threat here.
I look at his team. He has a Clinton Foundation attorney, only Democratic donors, no Republican donors, and the man who was excoriated for withholding exculpatory evidence, put 4 innocent people in jail, overturned Fifth Circuit, tens of thousands of Enron employees, Enron Accounting, lost their jobs. He lost 9-0 in the Supreme Court. He's the lead guy.
Well, if they're sending a message, I'm sending a message to them. You're accountable to the Congress. And we're going to find out what you... Well, they better answer my letter.
Okay.
If I were them, I would.
And we'll get to the bottom of FISA. If somebody signed off on something they didn't verify and didn't corroborate...
Just put it this way. What if the roles were reversed? What if the Republican Party hired a former British agent to go to Russia to dig up dirt on Hillary Clinton?
And hated Clinton.
And everything in the dossier was a bunch of BS. Do you think that might be front-page news everywhere all the time?
The Grassley-Graham memo, infamous memo, bulk of information. That means they committed a fraud on a court, and they never told the court, which they knew according to Bruce Orr's testimony, that they paid for. All right, I got to get to immigration.
Okay.
A lot of conservatives looked at Donald Trump, New York businessman, had donated to Republicans and Democrats. At one point was actually pro-choice. He's pro-life now.
Right.
He kept his promises on judges, taxes, regulations, energy. Now he's trying to fight for the wall. I'm telling people, I told people then he's going to govern as a conservative.
Right.
Some doubted me. I think I've been proven right. And I would say now, I'm 99% certain either the Defense Department budget or emergency money is going to be used, and he is relentless and tenacious and changing strategies, not losing.
So to everybody who's wondering how this movie ends, it ends this way. We're going to build a wall one way or the other. I just talked to the president 10 minutes before I came on your show.
I know for a fact because it was in the green room.
So here's the point we're trying to make. The $5.7 billion represents 10 locations, according to the Department of Homeland Security, that a barrier would make the most difference. It's a professionally designed plan. If you look at the 10 locations on the border where the professionals say we need a barrier, it adds up to $5.7 billion. Every Democrat virtually has voted for 634 miles of fencing. When you ask people where are the 10 locations of the 634 miles we need something up now, they gave us the location, and the price tag is $5.7 billion. The president's not doing anything crazy. What's crazy is that they're fighting him after having voted the way they did in the past.
Just in the Obama a few years ago. Just a few. And the president, to his credit, offered
2018.
Everything, offered things Democrats dreamed about.
So,
DACA,
let me tell you
but
what.
Not amnesty.
Here's the conversation. The president wants to work with Democrats. He doesn't. The shutdown is not the way to get a result. He did it because he had nobody to work with. Democrats are overplaying their hand. If you want TPS reform and DACA reform,
you'll get it
you
now.
can get it.
But you won't get it
But you
after
won't
the
get
15th.
it if he does it by himself.
I'm worried. I only have 10 seconds about your Republican colleagues.
I'm worried, too. If you don't stand by this
They don't stand
president, every president, Bush, Obama, and Trump sent troops to the border. What's unusual about that? Nothing. What's the difference between sending a troop to secure the border and build a barrier while they're there? He has all the power in the world to do this. To my Republican colleagues, stand behind him.
Exactly. It's good for the country.
And if
Stop
you
the heroin
don't,
trafficking,
you're going
human
to
trafficking.
pay a price.
Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. When we come back, we sent Lawrence Jones to California. He's asking residents out there what they think about Kamala Harris's radical proposals, and you won't believe what they had to say. Also, an exclusive interview with our Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. A lot going around the world. Our Hollywood villain of the day. See if you can figure it out. Coming up. All right, as I've been telling you about the Democratic Party, they are now competing to be the most radical, the most extreme 2020 candidate. And Senator Kamala Harris appears to be the early frontrunner. And we decided to send our own Lawrence Jones out to California to see what the residents in her home state think about her far-left agenda. Let's take a look.
So Kamala Harris is running for president now. How do y'all feel about it?
I think it's awesome.
So some of the positions that she's taken, she believes that there should be a single-payer system, Medicare for all. Do you agree with that?
Of course I do, absolutely.
So how do we pay for that?
That's just the way we've been paying for it all these years.
Yeah,
I mean, let's
but we're
just...
not paying for it now. If everybody is on it, how do we pay for that?
Through taxes?
How you gonna offer free health care? Who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
That's the number one question is who's gonna pay for it.
But how are we gonna pay for that?
I don't know. They can figure it out. If every billionaire in this country took $1 million out of their pocket,
Also, just make
they can pay for everything.
so put it all on the billionaires. We should have single-payer Medicaid for all. How do you feel about that?
That ain't gonna work. Not in the United States, no.
What about the education system? She said that college should be free, pre-K should be free.
Paying? I want to know who's paying for it all.
What about education? She believes that free college, free pre-K, is that reasonable?
No, really. Who wouldn't want that, okay? I just want to know where the money's coming from.
There should be free college as well as free preschool. How do you feel about that?
I agree because it is in Europe. They don't have. I work with international students. They get school for free in their countries.
Yeah.
They come here for opportunity.
Yeah, but how are we going to pay for that here?
It's in someone's pockets, so why not share?
But do you think she's a great opponent to challenge him?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I like her policies. I think, that it's time for women to...
You like her policies even though you just told me that they weren't practical.
The idea is good.
The idea, but it's not practical.
It's not practical.
But you still like her.
I still like her.
Thank you.
All right, joining us now, Fox News contributor Lawrence. You're laughing at your own package. I love that. Lawrence Jones is with us, and Washington Times columnist, our friend Monica Crowley. All right, Lawrence, why are you laughing? You think the answers are funny?
Well, this is just crazy. I mean, we don't think what she's saying is practical, but we like what she's saying, but she can never get it passed, so we're just going to vote for her anyway. This is how unreasonable the Democrats are. They are so caught up in their feelings that they don't think practically about issues, and this is why they're not going to win. But I would caution people, take Kamala serious. There is a group of people out here that's going to vote for her radical agenda, even if they know that it's not practical, as you just saw in the package.
All right, Kamala Harris. So George Mason University, prestigious university, they actually look at the cost of this. 10 years, $32+ trillion. That's 3.2 trillion with a T. A year. That's almost all the money we take in. We'll have no defense department.
It's almost all the money in the world, Sean. I have a column coming tomorrow in the Washington Times where I argue that the Democratic presidential candidates of 2020, of which Senator Harris is one, have learned nothing from the 2016 election. Number one, they have no idea what it is to run against Donald Trump. But number two, they are now
operating. For the new nicknames to start flowing out.
They're coming. They're coming. But they also are operating in the context of the Democratic Party, which is now Barack Obama's Democratic Party. This is no longer the party of Bill Clinton, even Jimmy Carter. This is a radical left party, and they are all running to the far left because that's where all the energy and activism are.
Keep your doctor, keep your plan, save money. Millions lost their doctor, lost their plans, only have one option in their county or city, and everybody paid at least double. So now she's going to take 177 million Americans private insurance away. You will have no choice.
Well, and remember, after she said that, her campaign backtracked, but then today she backtracked from the backtrack.
She backtracked.
Right, but all the folks that Lawrence is talking to, they don't care about how any of this will be paid for. They think money grows on trees or it will come like manna from heaven.
Oh, they
have no understanding of it, nor do they care.
Lawrence.
The problem is, Sean, we warned people back during Obamacare days that this would happen. This was just setting the stage for a single-payer system, that they were going to get rid of the private insurance sector. And they made fun of us. They said conservative libertarians were overreacting. When we talked about the death panels and all of this stuff, they said we were overreacting. And now we see it. Presidential candidates that are going to run in 2020 are saying they back this stuff.
Now, they're talking about 70% income tax rates. The bottom 50%, Monica, wage earners, they only pay 2% of the income tax bill. 20% pays over 90%. So what are those 20% of people going to do with their money? They're going to leave.
Well,
they're not going to pay 90% or Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax.
They will leave the country, just like in high-tax states, you're seeing this massive exodus from states like Illinois, New York, Connecticut, California.
New Jersey.
They're going to the low-income states.
No,
low-income
they go to
tax
Florida?
states. Florida, Texas,
They'll come to Texas.
Yeah. So this is going to happen on a national scale. But the point is, they don't care how any of this works. This is all ideology, and it's about massive redistributionism.
Lawrence.
Yeah, don't bring that nonsense to my state, Texas. We got enough of liberals coming here. That's how Beta almost got elected, so don't bring it to Texas.
Well, yeah, if you already ruined your state. If you're going to move to the state that has no state income tax, don't bring your dopey policies that ruin the state you left.
That's right.
All right. Great job, Lawrence. Thank you. Great job, Monica. When we come back, an exclusive interview with the president's top diplomat. A lot going on around the world. So what is President Trump going to do in Venezuela? What's happening with North Korea and more? And maybe you'll guess tonight's villain of the day. Famous Hollywood celebrity. Straight ahead. All right, as I've been telling you about the Democratic Party, they are now competing to be the most radical, the most extreme 2020 candidate. And Senator Kamala Harris appears to be the early frontrunner. And we decided to send our own Lawrence Jones out to California to see what the residents in her home state think about her far-left agenda. Let's take a look.
So Kamala Harris is running for president now. How do y'all feel about it?
I think it's awesome.
So some of the positions that she's taken, she believes that there should be a single-payer system, Medicare for all. Do you agree with that?
Of course I do, absolutely.
So how do we pay for that?
That's just the way we've been paying for it all these years.
Yeah,
I mean,
but we're not paying for it now. If everybody is on it, how do we pay for that?
Through taxes?
How you gonna offer free health care? Who's gonna pay for it?
Yeah.
That's the number one question is who's gonna pay for it.
But how are we gonna pay for that?
I don't know. They can figure it out. If every billionaire in this country took $1 million out of their pockets,
also just put it all on the billionaires. We should have single payer Medicaid for all. How do you feel about that?
That ain't gonna work. Not in the United States, no.
What about the education system? She said that college should be free, pre-K should be free.
Paying? I want to know who's paying for it all.
What about education? She believes that free college, free pre-K, is that reasonable?
No, really. Who wouldn't want that, okay? I just want to know where the money's coming from.
There should be free college as well as free preschool. How do you feel about that?
I agree because it is in Europe. They don't have. I work with international students. They get school for free in their countries. Yeah. They come here for opportunity.
Yeah, but how are we going to pay for that here?
It's in someone's pockets, so why not share?
But do you think she's a great opponent to challenge him?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I like her policies. I think, that it's time for women to...
You like her policies, even though you just told me that they weren't practical.
The idea is good.
The idea, but it's not practical.
It's not practical.
But you still like her.
I still like her.
Thank you.
All right, joining us now, Fox News contributor Lawrence. You're laughing at your own package. I love that. Lawrence Jones is with us, and Washington Times columnist, our friend Monica Crowley. All right, Lawrence, why are you laughing? You think the answers are funny?
Well, this is just crazy. I mean, we don't think what she's saying is practical, but we like what she's saying, but she can never get it passed, so we're just going to vote for her anyway. This is how unreasonable the Democrats are. They are so caught up in their feelings that they don't think practically about issues, and this is why they're not going to win. But I would caution people, take Kamala serious. There is a group of people out here that's going to vote for her radical agenda, even if they know that it's not practical, as you just saw in the package.
All right, Kamala Harris. So George Mason University, prestigious university, they actually look at the cost of this. 10 years, $32+ trillion. That's 3.2 trillion with a T. A year. That's almost all the money we take in. We'll have no defense department.
It's almost all the money in the world, Sean. I have a column coming tomorrow in the Washington Times where I argue that the Democratic presidential candidates of 2020, of which Senator Harris is one, have learned nothing from the 2016 election. Number one, they have no idea what it is to run against Donald Trump. But number two, they are now operating.
For the new nicknames to start flowing out.
They're coming. They're coming. But they also are operating in the context of the Democratic Party, which is now Barack Obama's Democratic Party. This is no longer the party of Bill Clinton, even Jimmy Carter. This is a radical left party, and they are all running to the far left because that's where all the energy and activism are.
Keep your doctor, keep your plan, save money. Millions lost their doctor, lost their plans, only have one option in their county or city, and everybody paid at least double. So now she's going to take 177 million Americans' private insurance away. You will have no choice.
Well, and remember, after she said that, her campaign backtracked, but then today she backtracked from the backtrack.
She backtracked.
Right, but all the folks that Lawrence is talking to, they don't care about how any of this will be paid for. They think money grows on trees or it will come like manna from heaven.
They're
they have no understanding of it, nor do they care.
Lawrence.
The problem is, Sean, we warned people back during Obamacare days that this would happen. This was just setting the stage for a single-payer system, that they were going to get rid of the private insurance sector. And they made fun of us. They said conservative libertarians were overreacting. When we talked about the death panels and all of this stuff, they said we were overreacting. And now we see it. Presidential candidates that are going to run in 2020 are saying they back this stuff.
Now, they're talking about 70% income tax rates. The bottom 50%, Monica, wage earners, they only pay 2% of the income tax bill. 20% pays over 90%. So what are those 20% of people going to do with their money? They're going to leave.
Well,
they're not going to pay 90% or Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax.
They will leave the country, just like in high tax states, you're seeing this massive exodus from states like Illinois, New York, Connecticut, California.
New Jersey.
They're going to the low-income states.
No,
low-income
tax
Florida? States. Florida, Texas,
They'll
Nevada.
Come to Texas.
So this is going to happen on a national scale. But the point is, they don't care how any of this works. This is all ideology, and it's about massive redistributionism.
Lawrence.
Yeah, don't bring that nonsense to my state, Texas. We got enough of liberals coming here. That's how Beta almost got elected. So don't bring it to Texas.
Well, yeah, if you're ready to ruin your state, if you're going to move to the state that has no state income tax, don't bring your dopey policies that ruin the state you left.
That's right.
All right. Great job, Lawrence. Thank you. Great job, Monica. When we come back, an exclusive interview with the president's top diplomat. A lot going on around the world. So what is President Trump going to do in Venezuela? What's happening with North Korea and more? And maybe you'll guess tonight's villain of the day. Famous Hollywood celebrity. Straight ahead.